The restaurant buzzed with energy, laughter, clinking glasses, and the low hum of background music filled the air. Golden fairy lights hung from the ceiling, casting a warm glow over the long dining table where my coworkers and I sat celebrating. Tonight was supposed to be special. My night. For the past 5 years, I had poured my heart into this company, often working late, fixing problems no one else wanted to handle, and mentoring junior employees even though it wasn't in my job description. My boss Richard had dropped hints for months, telling me I was next in line for the senior manager position, and tonight at this very party my promotion would be announced. I had imagined this moment countless times, the applause, the pride, the validation. I adjusted the hem of my navy blue dress and glanced around the table. My team was in high spirits, celebrating the company's quarterly success. At the head of the table, Richard stood, clinking his wine glass with a fork, signaling for attention. The room quieted. My heart pounded in anticipation. "Tonight," he began, his deep voice carrying over the chatter, "I want to take a moment to recognize someone truly exceptional. Someone who has shown incredible dedication, drive, and talent in just a short time here at the company. It's rare to find someone who can make such an impact in only 3 months." My smile faltered. 3 months. Richard turned to my coworker Lisa. "Lisa, the fresh hire." "Lisa," he continued, "you have exceeded all our expectations. Your leadership, creativity, and problem-solving skills have impressed us all, which is why I'm thrilled to officially announce your promotion to senior manager. Congratulations." The room erupted in applause. I sat frozen, my fingers clenched around the stem of my champagne glass. My throat tightened as I forced a smile onto my face. I clapped along with the others as Lisa stood, blushing and graciously accepting her new title. This wasn't happening. I felt my world tilt slightly as Richard turned toward me, as if remembering I existed. He grinned and said, "And of course, Kathy, you've been such a valuable member of the team." That was it, a hollow acknowledgement, a pat on the back after 5 years of hard work. I swallowed the lump in my throat and smiled wider. "Of course. Lisa absolutely deserves it," I said, lifting my glass in a toast. Richard nodded approvingly. "She does a lot more than you already, Kathy. You should take notes." Laughter. Lisa giggled awkwardly and muttered, "Oh, I wouldn't say that." But the words were already out there, hanging in the air like a slap across my face. I laughed along with them. What else could I do? Cry? Beg? Ask him why he had strung me along for months only to humiliate me? Instead, I lifted my glass to my lips and took a slow sip. As the night went on, I smiled. I chatted. I celebrated. But inside, a storm was brewing. When the party finally ended and I stepped outside into the cool night air, I pulled out my phone. My fingers trembled slightly as I composed a short, simple email to HR. Subject: Resignation letter submission. Dear Richard, please find my official resignation letter attached, effective immediately. Bess. Okay. I hesitated for only a second before hitting send. As soon as the email left my outbox, I took a deep breath. For the first time in years, I felt something unexpected: relief. But I wasn't done yet. On Monday, Richard was about to find out exactly what happens when you underestimate the wrong person. The office felt different that Monday morning. I walked in through the front doors with a sense of quiet satisfaction, my resignation letter already sitting in Richard's inbox. He had no idea what was coming. At first glance, everything seemed normal. The receptionist greeted me with a bright smile. My coworkers gathered near the break room chatting over their morning coffee. Lisa was already at her desk, basking in the afterglow of her big promotion. I wasn't angry at Lisa. She hadn't done anything wrong. The real problem sat inside the corner office, the man who had lied to my face for months, making me believe I was valued only to discard me like I was nothing. I took my time settling in, calmly placing my bag beside my desk and booting up my computer. I wanted Richard to come to me, and right on cue his office door swung open. "Kathy, my office." "Now." The entire floor went silent. People exchanged nervous glances. No one had ever heard Richard sound like that before. Urgent. Confused. Desperate. I stood up slowly, smoothed my blouse and walked into his office. The door clicked shut behind me. Richard was already seated at his desk, my resignation letter printed out in front of him. He looked up, eyes scanning my face as if trying to figure out whether this was a joke. "You're leaving?" His voice was incredulous. "Yes," I sat down across from him, folding my hands in my lap. Effective immediately. But why? This is so sudden. We didn't discuss this. I let out a soft laugh. We didn't discuss Lisa's promotion either, but here we are. His jaw tightened. Kathy, that wasn't personal. She just outperformed you. She's been here for 3 months, I said, tilting my head. But sure, if that's what you believe. Richard leaned forward. You know I appreciate you, right? You've been such an important part of this company for 5 years. I don't want to lose you. I stared at him for a long moment, taking in the sheer audacity of his words. You don't want to lose me, I repeated, raising an eyebrow. But you had no problem overlooking me for a promotion I worked years for. You had no problem laughing when I was humiliated at my own celebration party. And you had no problem telling me to take notes from someone who just got here. His expression shifted, his usual smug confidence beginning to crack. Look, he said, running a hand through his hair, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I should have handled it differently, but you resigning out of nowhere. This isn't the right move, Kathy. You're making an emotional decision. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I sent that email on Friday night, Richard. If this was just emotion, I would have stormed out that same evening. But I didn't. I planned this and I'm leaving on my terms. His hand curled into a fist on the desk. He wasn't used to losing. So what's your plan? He asked, his voice sharp now. Go to one of our competitors? Because I have to remind you, Kathy, that we have non-compete agreements. I laughed again. Oh, he had no idea. I don't need to go to a competitor, I said, standing up. You see, Richard, while you were busy ignoring my contributions, someone else wasn't. He frowned. What do you mean? I took a deep breath, relishing the moment. Do you remember Andrew Carter? The CFO you let go last year. Richard tensed. Of course he remembered. Andrew had been one of the company's most valuable executives, but he and Richard had clashed too many times. Richard had forced him out, thinking he was replaceable. Andrew reached out to me a few months ago, I continued. He's starting his own firm and he wanted me to lead the operations department. A director-level position. I turned him down at first. I was loyal to this company. I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice. But Friday night changed everything. I called him right after I left the party and he made the offer again. I accepted. Silence. Pure, unfiltered shock. Richard stared at me like he was trying to process the information. You're leaving for Andrew's company? He finally said, voice tight. I start next Monday, I confirmed. He opened his mouth, closed it, then exhaled sharply. Kathy, be reasonable. This company has been your home for 5 years. We can work something out. We can talk about Dash. I don't want to talk, I interrupted smoothly. This decision is final. He clenched his jaw. You won't be able to come back. I smiled. I won't need to. I turned, walking to the door. Just before I stepped out, I paused. You know, Richard, I said over my shoulder, it's funny how you only realize someone's worth when they walk away. Then I walked out, closing the door behind me, leaving him alone with the consequences of his actions. And it felt amazing. 6 months later, I sat in my corner office on the 42nd floor, overlooking the city skyline. The view was breathtaking, but not as satisfying as the email I'd just received from my assistant. Richard's company was hemorrhaging clients. After I left, taking my extensive client relationships with me, things had started unraveling. It wasn't just about losing accounts, it was about losing trust. The clients I'd carefully nurtured for years knew my worth, even if Richard hadn't. My phone buzzed. A message from Andrew, meeting in 5. Big news. I smiled, knowing exactly what this was about. Straightening my designer suit, I made my way to the conference room. The past 6 months had been transformative. Under Andrew's leadership, our new company had grown exponentially, and my department was a major reason why. As I entered the conference room, I noticed an unusual energy in the air. Andrew stood at the head of the table, grinning. Everyone's here. Perfect. Let's begin. He pulled up a presentation on the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're about to see is confidential, but I wanted my leadership team to hear it first. The first slide appeared and I felt my heart skip a beat. It was Richard's company logo. As of this morning, Andrew continued, we've received confirmation. They're selling. The board finally forced Richard's hand after the consecutive quarterly losses. And guess who's buying them? The room erupted in excited murmurs. I sat back, letting the irony of the situation wash over me. That's right, Andrew confirmed. We are. And Kathy, he turned to me, since you know their operations better than anyone, I want you to lead the merger transition team. Just then my phone lit up with a text. It was Lisa. Kathy, have you heard? The company's being sold. Everyone's panicking. Richard looks like he's seen a ghost. Please tell me you're coming back to fix this mess. I typed back, actually I am coming back. But not as an employee. The next week I walked into my old office building, this time flanked by our transition team. The atmosphere was tense, employees whispering, wondering what would happen to their jobs. Richard stood in the lobby looking smaller somehow. When he saw me his face went pale. Kathy, he managed, you're part of the acquisition team? Actually, I corrected him, I'm leading it. His eyes widened as understanding dawned. You planned this? I shook my head. No, Richard. You did. When you chose to undervalue loyalty and experience. When you decided that 3 months outweighed 5 years. When you humiliated me at what was supposed to be my celebration. I turned to address the gathered employees. For those worried about their jobs, don't be. Unlike some leaders, I know the value of experience and dedication. Everyone here will have a chance to prove themselves in the new structure. My eyes found Lisa, who looked both relieved and ashamed. Everyone deserves a fair chance. Richard stepped forward. Kathy, Save it, I cut him off. The board has already accepted our terms. Your severance package will be handled by HR. I smiled, sweet as honey. You should take notes on how this is done. As I walked toward what used to be his office, and would soon be our new regional headquarters, I heard scattered applause from the employees. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to see Richard's face to know he finally understood his mistake. That evening as I sat in my new office, Richard's old one, I opened my drawer and found an old performance review he'd written about me. Kathy is reliable but lacks initiative. She's better suited for supporting roles rather than leadership positions. I pinned it to my wall as a reminder. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's rising above, succeeding beyond anyone's expectations, and then coming back to buy the whole damn company. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Lisa. Dinner soon? I owe you an apology. I replied, tomorrow works. Lisa. No apology needed. Sometimes the best lessons come from unexpected teachers. Looking out over the city lights, I couldn't help but smile. Monday had indeed been fun, but this was just the beginning.